Hello everybody, this is Curtis from PSNStores.com. Today we're going to take a look at Bard's Gold. This game actually came out on PS4 and Vita a handful of months ago. It just kind of slipped on right by us. But we're going to take a little look at this. So I finished the first of, I'm guessing, 4 areas. I've been playing on normal. You have a choice between normal, retro, and roguelike. For what I can tell, normal is kind of your normal difficulty. Retro seems like it's a little bit more difficult. And then roguelike, I have not looked at, but maybe we'll give that a shot at the end of this video. The one thing I'm not too sure on is actually the dice. I'd assume that would maybe add to the randomization of the game. Maybe that's just showing the level of randomization there is. And then maybe the jewels are representative of how much money you can get. And you'll learn why that's maybe important once we get into this. So, anyways, let's go ahead and check out normal. So I'm currently on the second world. I've actually made it almost to the boss, but not quite. So there's a couple of things going on here, or more than a few things. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. The main thing you need to know is the bottom portion of the screen. It's kind of the key stuff you want to be paying attention to. So here we are just playing as a bard. If I hit square, I can just throw these kind of daggers. And that's kind of your main method of attack, or your only method. You can get another weapon at the shop. Basically, how this works is there is a door. We need to get to that door. That's the exit. To do that, we need to find the key in the level. So this is World 1, first level. It's going to be pretty easy. There's our key. However, that said, just because you get the key does not mean you are done with that particular area. There are, of course, enemies that you can kill to get money, which you're going to want. That's great. But there's also secrets to find. So you could just kind of go throwing your daggers around hoping that you find something. Or if you pick up this power-up, these magic glasses, you're going to notice a very slight change. Specifically right here over the bard's head, you see there's like a kind of there's a little bit of a sparkle every like second or so. So if you hit that, maybe you'll drop a piece of a map, which you'll want to collect. So there's that. Or maybe you'll drop some money, like a gem or something. There's also the potential to open a doorway to like a kind of a secret little area. And then I think what happened there is if you get all of the kind of hidden secrets in an area, I think another life drops. Oh, which is good, because you want as many as you can get. This game, you can only take one hit before dying, and then when you die, you just return to the very beginning of that specific stage that you're on. So having 6, I guess technically 7 lives here is really useful. There are traps too, so they're actually kind of hard to see. I think they're actually a little easier to see in the second world. There are like switches that if you activate, you'll see something like that where like an arrow will go flying across the screen. And the other thing to know is like, so we have these magic glasses right now, which are really useful for finding any secrets. But if you die, you do lose that. So there are shops. We'll probably run into one. I don't know if it's this stage. But you'll run into a few throughout each world. The way it's set up though is so each world has I don't know the total number, but a decent amount of specific layouts for each stage. But the stage order is randomized. There's another piece of the map. So even though these are the first 2 stages we've come across, the next time you go through, your first 2 levels are going to be, or will likely be, very different. But these stages themselves are not like randomly generated. They are designed. It is the order that you will come across them is the thing that's random. So here's the shop. So we've got a good amount of gems. And there is a decent chunk of things that we can spend those gems on. So to kind of run down the line, so we have the 3-way daggers, which is pretty self-explanatory. We have an axe, which let's just go ahead and buy that, I guess. Never really used it that much. We do have new life, so if we want to buy another life, we can. Power, which increases the amount of damage you do. So you can get that up to... There's like 2 bars that will be under power. You see in the bottom middle of the screen. Gold watch. So in the top right, you see a countdown. There's that timer. When it hits 0, balls of fire will just start raining from the top of the screen. So this will give you extra time. We then have magic glasses, which we're gonna buy again because I want to get. You want to get the full map. We have a shield that I believe just gives you a free hit. Essentially, from what I can tell, we have a chakram. We have this bubble barrier, a sphere barrier. I just think of it as a bubble shield. From what I can tell, this protects against like projectiles, or maybe if there's like a spike trap that you hit, it'll protect you against that. And then of course sprint shoes, which should be self-explanatory as well. So there's the axe, kind of a much longer range, has a bit of an arc to it. And that screen shaking, I believe, means that we've got a bit of a visitor who might be showing up. There they are. The blood ghost. This is actually, we're going to try to fight this guy. Doesn't seem that bad. I usually just didn't hang around. And there's our trophy. It's a good reference there. Oh, cool. Actually, I'm glad I did that. So this is a skill book, and again, you know, when we die, when we lose all of our lives, you'll see why that's important. Let's go ahead and go. So there are 6 levels in each world, and then there is on the 7th world, or 7th stage, there is a boss fight. So I think we should probably be able to get to that boss fight, pending any like disastrous outcomes here. The axe seems to do a good deal more damage than the daggers. It also helps that I'm getting like bleeding damage added on. So in this case, we noticed that like you hit one of the sparkles, and then there was like another one showed up, and then another one showed up. If you do that, you'll actually find these doors. These doors will lead you to special areas like this one, Flammy's Treasure, or Flamey's Treasure, I guess. And here, there's a chest. There's a key that we're gonna need to find. And then I believe this will just give us a bunch of gems. I've done it a couple times. I think there might have been once where I actually might have gotten a power-up or increased their weapon damage. There's a as you saw there, it was, you know, my axe was hitting something clearly. So you hit it enough times and that'll happen. And so in this case, this key that we need it for the chest, you're only going to be able to see it if you have the magic glasses. So, and now we got a bunch of gems and a life. That's good. Decent run here. Oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. Can I go back in? Nope. You notice that slime dropped what's called a bonus. You see there to the right of my weapon that I'm using. When you get 5, your like roulette wheel comes up, sort of, or kind of a roulette thing shows up, and you will either get an additional life, a boost to your attack power or more money. And let's see. So we're just looking for the key now, I think, right? The reason why, if you're wondering why you would want to collect all the map pieces, is when you do that, it actually opens up a door, like a treasure room, I believe. And you just, again, you just get a ton of money. And there's a very specific reason why you're going to want a lot of money come the end of your run. There's actually an interesting balance between spending stuff at the store, like as you find it, to get power-ups and whatnot, but also like kind of keeping some saved back for when you inevitably die or just clear the world itself. Did we pass the... Oh, there it is. I was gonna say, I was like, I don't remember where the key is in this level. There we go. Alright, and then the door should be up here. Yep. So we're making our way through. And there's death. So again, all one-hit kills. Not normally a huge deal. It does also pertain to the boss fights, though, which I could see maybe getting a little frustrating, maybe in the later sections of the game, where you might have a boss down really low, and then you get hit and have to restart that fight over again because it's just a one-hit kill. Although theoretically, you'd probably want to go into those fights with like shields and stuff like that to maybe prevent that. So you see here we died, so we lost our axe, we lost our equipment, we lost our bonuses. So that is kind of your punishment for death. And then at the same time, one thing that's really nice about this is that when we die, any enemies that you've killed in this current stage, anything you've collected, you keep that. So if you're on like 1-6 or something, right, and you die, but you die like after having done basically everything, you've killed all the enemies, you got the key, you found the secrets, even though you're gonna respawn at the door at the beginning of that specific floor or stage, but you're not gonna have to redo any of that stuff. All that stuff is going to remain having been finished by you. Which is pretty nice. So, I'm probably not going to be too bothered with getting the rest of the map pieces. I don't think it's something that's super necessary to show. I've already kind of said what it does, so it is definitely useful. You want to get those things. Let's see. We're pretty good on lives. I think I might save these gems. I got my axe back, I got the power up. At least one, so that should be fine as is. There's our key. Sometimes you need to be careful with these spikes. Sometimes they'll fall, and if they and in that kind of case where it's actually pretty close to you, you're not always just going to be able to keep walking under it. But as long as you're careful, they're usually pretty easy to avoid. There are some traps that still get me, though. Alright. So this will take us to 1-5. I'm going to see if I can't just get through these last two stages really quick, and then maybe show off the boss. It helps that the axe is a good deal better than oh crap, than the daggers. So I'm trying to remember. I believe the key is up. And the door might be like bottom left. Maybe not. Okay, so there's the door. Key might be up here. So that's, you know, the kind of the interesting thing really about this is that, you know, you might get a random, the level, like the order of the levels are random, but because they are all designed, you know, you're going to see these same levels just in a different order. The interesting thing about that is that because you have a very specific goal of, okay, get the key, go to the door. And then the secrets are all in the same spot, from what I can tell. Shops are in the same spot, enemy placement, same spot. You start to memorize it, and so it's kind of an interesting kind of difference, because I think a lot of games like this would maybe favor the procedural generation. Whereas a game like this, it's like, nope, it's, you know, you're just memorizing these things. Which I think has its own merits. Although I do wonder if maybe the roguelike difficulty might be a bit different. We'll check that out. So we're going to be getting close to there. So let's get the axe again. Let's go ahead and do our power. For our lives, we're pretty good. Maybe let's go ahead and do the shield, just so we can show that. And then we'll move on to the next stage. Alright. So, final stage here. And then we'll be at the boss. I don't remember... Oh, crap. Yeah, so again, you know, some of these traps still get me. And we just lost all that stuff we bought. Man. Or no. No, we didn't. We still have our axe. Yeah, because we had the shield, and that's right. But now we lost it. Great. This, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the key is this way. That's the other thing is, you know, especially when you get to World 2, or to some extent, the layout of the levels themselves actually open up quite a bit. They're not, like, super linear. They're pretty open, so it's definitely a bit of, like, okay, trying to remember what direction you need to be headed in to get the key. And then once you get the key, you know, remembering, okay, that's where the door is. Because sometimes they're, like, in the center of the level, sometimes they're off to the edge. It could be any number of things. And then I believe... There's the door. Alright, so let's go fight this boss. So the boss is a slime monster. There are smaller slime enemies that will fall from the ceiling. Health bar is at the top center. Usually it's a few hits just to get one of these bars down. One of the squares. Relatively simple fight, but again, you know, because we're in the situation we're in right now, where we, you know, we don't have upgraded damage. We just got the base weapon. And because of the way this blob kind of moves around, you know, getting him down can take a little while. So getting him down to like 1 or 2 more hits, or 1 or 2 more squares, and then dying because it's a 1-hit KO for everything. You know, I imagine when things get really hard later in the game. That could be maybe a little frustrating. Luckily, this guy isn't too bad. Pretty simple patterns overall. One thing that I haven't quite figured out yet. So we have the score in the top left. I haven't really figured out what exactly that is for other than just being there. Because it doesn't seem like you get anything from it. Even after, you know, maybe you've died or maybe you beat the boss. I'm not entirely sure how that factors in. This is the case for a lot of things in this game early on. Oh, see, we were so close. And now we got to start over. But there's a lot of, you know, this game doesn't really teach you anything. It's a lot of just kind of figuring it out for yourself. Which has its pros and cons. Like, there are certain things where it's like, I think it wouldn't be that bad to just say what it does. But for the most part, most things are pretty easy to kind of suss out on your own. But we're not going to beat that boss. So, it tells you how many enemies you killed, the floors that you went through, your score, and then, of course, how much time it took. And now, here, this is why you want to collect as many gems as you possibly can. And also, maybe be careful about how you spend it throughout your run. Because we have a few different things we can upgrade. So you saw I actually picked up the extra gems, what I picked up from defeating the blood ghost or whatever. So now I can start upgrading that. And here it's like, you know, you start out with just maximum life. But as you do things, as you find different secrets, and do maybe even beat a boss, you're going to be unlocking more of these skill books. And these are things that are permanent upgrades that you will keep with you throughout every single run you do. So right now I got, you know, my maximum life, that's been increased a couple times. I've got range up that I've increased a couple times, which is really nice because your throwing dagger, the range on them, the range on it is not very far. And so having that option is definitely welcome. Extra time, extra gems, and then huge gem, which I have not done just yet. And then there's a few other skill books that I have not, or a handful of others that I have not found just yet. But again, that's why, you know, it might be tempting to spend all of your money at the shop. You might want to be careful because you want to have that sense of progression from playthrough to playthrough. Actually, immediately when I saw this, the game I thought about was Rogue Legacy, which is a game I love. But it has a very similar mechanic where you go through a run, you die, but all that money that you gathered, you can then use to invest into different upgrades for your character or for your lineage of characters. This is a little bit different. The actual upgrades themselves are, you know, a little bit different. It's not a huge, massive skill tree like Rogue Legacy, but it's pretty similar in concept and it's easy to understand. So I think for me, I'm just gonna pump it into maximum life for now. I don't actually, typically my runs have a little bit over 1,000 gems. But, so you do that exit, you go back to the title screen, start it over. Again, currently I'm on World 2. But let's go ahead and just look at this roguelike mode. To see, oh, okay, so we just go, which, well, I guess it makes sense because you wouldn't have checkpoints to choose the world, you would just go. So, I don't know, yeah, let's see how far we can get. Probably not very. We have 2 out of 2 lives. So I'm just kind of curious, you know, how different this is. Which immediately, yeah, so you can take damage. Looks like maybe up to 3 hits. Yep. And then you die, and that is probably it. I would assume none of the actual upgrades themselves carry over. No, I don't think they would. I think the actual upgrades that you're doing for skill books is probably specifically for normal and retro. But that said, that is Bard's Gold. It's a pretty cool little game. It is definitely hard. I would like to do a review of this. That is going to very much depend on my ability to finish it. Hopefully soon. I am currently swamped with just every other video game in existence right now. And they're long games, too. So, for what it's worth. This is a neat little game, for sure. Again, it just kind of slipped on by when it did come out a handful of months ago. But I believe it's also really cheap. I think it's like $5. I'm not... I'll put the price in the description. I believe it's like right around 5, so it's not very expensive. Neat little stuff going on here, and definitely very hard. So if you're in for something that'll give you a good little challenge, this might be up your alley. But with that said, sorry. Thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see you later.